Where I'm standing right now, yesterday we had to take a boat just to get out here. That's how much the water here has receded, several feet. Still, there are many homes here in this neighborhood, at least partially underwater.
You have to accept the good with the bad, and I've had a lot of good.
Eugene Bowers has lived in the town and country neighborhood for 48 years.
I raised 4 kids here. Sent them all to college from here.
He survived the flood in 1986.
Like I said, 55 inches inside my house. And now it looks about 3 feet.
And he survived this one too. He moved his valuables out last Thursday. Now he says he and his wife likely won't come back.
I'm too old to stay here and face one of these.
Eugene took us in his house to see the damage.
I've got about 2 feet here, and I had up to here last time.
There's water lines on the wall, chairs piled up on the bed, and when he opened the refrigerator, a drawer full of potatoes and water fell out. Down the street, Vernon McDonald is also returning home.
We took all the major appliances out, bedroom too, some of the furniture.
He too was here in 86.
I had 4 feet of water in my home in the 86 flood. It came up faster.
With the water slowly receding, some people in the town and country neighborhood still can't come back.
I'm sorry to leave here. We have the most gracious neighbors.
For those who can, they're just trying to figure out what's next.
Yes, we're going to find a way to move on somewhere, some way.
Covering news that matters, I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News.
Really didn't expect it to be this bad.
Cars underwater, street signs barely visible, and dozens of homes nearly submerged in the flood.
Yeah, it's terrible. It makes me really nervous.
Most of the people who live in the town and country neighborhood, like Ashley Tabor, moved out days ago.
We put some sandbags, but it was pointless.
The sheriff's office took us out on a boat to see the flooding with Congressman Kevin Hearn and Commissioner Karen Keith.
I mean, it's just absolutely, utterly heartbreaking.
Keith has been on the water every day this week, but it just keeps rising.
This is deeper than it was yesterday and the day before.
The only sign of life here, a water moccasin skirting across the water.
Do our dead level best to try to help them.
But officials are hopeful to reduce the amount of water coming out of the Keystone Dam.
If you don't have flood insurance, it's a real setback in life.
Commissioner Karen Keith says they're working on plans to help people in the hardest hit areas where some have lost everything.
We heard about it in the 80s, and then, we've seen the hurricane situations, but this is just real devastation. So it's sad.
Officials here say they think this is the worst of it, that after today, the water here should start to recede. In Sand Springs, covering news that matters, I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. And there is a lot of damage here and some confused animals. You can see there's this deer just here in the yard in the middle of this destruction. Further over to the left, they're trying to herd the cattle up. Kind of a big mess they've got out here after that tornado. Kind of strange, this deer's getting really close to us, but this is the worst that we've seen here. If we pan back over here to the right, I want to show you this house here. This house pretty much leveled down to the foundation. I mean, just destroyed. The roof long gone, the house wiped off the concrete. Just so much damage here. We know there are 8 people who live in this home. None of them were here. We know all of them made it to the church, so all of them were safe, not injured. Overall here in Jay, though, we know authorities are saying there were 3 people with some minor injuries, and they are still investigating. They're going to be out here today looking at the damage. There's this dog up here. How sad is that? Just to see that dog sleeping on top of what used to be these people's home. Now, I want to show you something that we found a few minutes ago. The people who know people who live here, some of the friends told me that the family here, they have several cats, and they've actually got a box of kittens in here. They put the box of kittens in the truck here, and you can see these baby kittens. There's about 6 of them. They all made it through the storm. They're all okay. So there were a bunch of animals at these houses, and we know that pretty much all of the animals here were not injured in the storm. And you can just certainly look at all of it here and see just how bad the damage is. If we walk over here, careful Billy, through the trees, you can see there's tons of destruction. There are these huge trees that were knocked down. The truck here has the glass shattered out of it. Again, there are 3 people who were injured in Jay. They were not on this property. The mayor is asking people to conserve water today, and that's because the power is out all over. Everywhere we look, you can see there are down power lines pretty much all over this area, all over the city of Jay. So the mayor wants people to conserve power and conserve water until they can get the power back on. Again, we are expecting emergency officials out here at some point today. We're trying to talk with some of the families too as they show up back out here. We'll check back in the next half hour. Live in Jay, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. Tiffany, where I'm standing right now, yesterday we had to take a boat to get here. This is how much the water has receded in this neighborhood. Still, there are many homes nearby still partially submerged.
Took all of our appliances and musical instruments, computers.
Eugene Bowers and his wife left the Town and Country neighborhood last Thursday. Today, they're back for the first time.
We took everything out except some things that we put up real high.
Their house was partially underwater in the flood, but with sunshine and a lower water release at the Keystone Dam, the water is receding. Eugene took us in his house to see the damage.
I've got about 2 feet here, and I had up to here last time.
There's water lines on the wall, chairs piled up on the bed, and when he opened the refrigerator, a drawer full of potatoes and water fell out. Eugene's lived here 48 years. He repaired his home after the 1986 flood, but he says this time he'll likely have to leave.
Yes, we're going to find a way to move on somewhere, some way.
Some way, somehow, that's the story for a lot of people out here. You can't even get to the homes back here yet. The water hasn't receded that much. We've talked to a couple of families just returning home for the first time. Many of them were here in the 1986 flood. Their stories tonight at 5. Live in Sand Springs, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News.
We're going to have to start completely over.
A barn flipped upside down, a mattress in a tree, and 3 homes nearly leveled.
We just grabbed what we needed and left.
Tanya and Claude Phillips drove to Arkansas with their daughter right before the storm hit.
One reason we didn't have a storm shelter to get into.
And when they got back,
it was hard to believe. She broke down coming up the road.
You never know what you got till it's gone, you know. Appreciate what you got. That's all I gotta say.
Their family home of 40 years gone.
This place was left for all the family to come back to.
In town, Jay Family Medicine has tarps covering the roofs. There's trees down everywhere and dozens of homes have damage. The tornado hit these 3 together the hardest. There are many animals here on this property, and despite all of this damage, inside this red truck over here, we found a crate of newborn kittens. Miraculously, all of them left unharmed. Deputies say 3 people have minor injuries, and local officials confirm an elderly woman passed away right before the tornado hit. Neighbors say she had a heart attack or a panic attack trying to get into a storm shelter. For people like the Phillips,
we went and stayed in the motel at Grove last night, so we've got some friends that said they had places we come stay.
They're left now just trying to figure out what they can save and when they can rebuild.
It's just one of them deals you don't ever think it's going to happen to you, and it did.
In Jay, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. Karen and Ed Spencer, they have a storm cellar right here. They built this just for tornadoes, but they didn't make it in here in time last night. So now today, both their 2 shops over here leveled and their home over here, a total loss.
Well, I was fixing to go put some shoes on, and we were going to go to the cellar.
But instead of taking cover in the storm cellar, Karen and Ed Spencer were standing in the kitchen.
And while we were standing here, it hit.
When a tornado hit their house.
A roaring, sounded kind of like a freight train.
It broke the glass and everything, the door came open.
Broken bricks, crushed car windows, and pink insulation hanging in uprooted trees. The Spencer's house is a loss, and their large shops blown away.
I think it blew up because it's what it looks like.
They're not alone. Another mobile home in Pegs flipped upside down with 5 people inside. None of them were hurt. And in town, a feed store was leveled. The sign at the Cowboy store now lies in the parking lot, while at Dollar General, the sign is barely standing. And the fire station's radio tower bent in half.
It hit me dead center, I think.
From the Fox 23 Skyview drone, you can see the tornado's path, tearing down hundreds of trees.
When it first hit, it busted the glass out of the storm door, and then the door ripped off the frame out.
The Spencers have insurance to replace their house, but Ed's a little worried about his tractor. He equipment, and classic cars like a '72 Chevy pickup. After 50 years of marriage, though, Ed and Karen might have to start over, but they're glad they at least have each other.
I feel blessed. God had his hand on me.
But I'm just blessed to be alive.
Emergency management has been out here surveying damage today, and it is just everywhere out here. We know so far no injuries reported in any of this. Just a small town, a community left trying to rebuild. Live in Pegs, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. Tiffany, we know that there are 3 businesses and 22 homes here in town that are a total loss. Much of it looks just like where I'm standing right now, an empty concrete slab. There used to be a building here. It looked just like the one next to it, gone after last night's storm. And now today, much of the debris back here in the trees. Power crews still working to restore the power now more than 12 hours later. If you take a look at the video, the auto body shop lost an entire building with many cars inside that were damaged. We know the Twins Cafe lost part of its roof as well. The farmers market was also destroyed. The flea market also a total loss. This is video from the Fox 23 Skyview drone. Emergency management says the tornado first hit the ground around 10:43 last night. As far as injuries go, officials say so far only one report of a woman who hurt her leg and went to the hospital. For the businesses, though, it's devastating. Most of them tell me, though, they will rebuild.
Seeing this down just breaks my heart.
If it was going to happen, at least it didn't happen during the day when people are here.
And this is something else I want to show you. This is kind of a flea market building here, Peddlers and Pearls. This building was actually picked up by the storm, lifted off of its foundation. You can see that it slid several feet away from where it is right now. Further down there, the yellow building, that is a local flea market. They have so much to clean up. We talked with the interview with the owner extensively this morning. She walked me all through the damage of that building. Hear her story tonight at 5. Live in Haleyville, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. Shay, at least 3 businesses destroyed here, many more with significant damage, but by far the worst we've seen is this flea market here. The roof gone, the old buildings blown away, and the owner, Sylvia Jefferson, tells me this is her life's work.
Came here this morning, my heart just sank.
In the middle of disaster,
I've worked so hard at this little store.
Sylvia Jefferson fighting back tears, looking at her yellow barn now in shambles.
I cry, and you know what? I say it's just material things, but it's things that we worked really hard at.
She showed us around the OMG flea market.
We had children's area.
Some things left untouched.
And things are still intact on the shelf. It's kind of...
There's glasses on the shelf.
Yes, just sitting there like nothing.
But the rest now totally gone. Several more businesses along 97 in Haleyville cleaning up after last night's tornado.
If it was going to happen, at least it didn't happen during the day when people are here.
Smashed trucks, missing buildings, and twisted metal. Mark McCullough is trying to get his body shop back open.
Oh, well, just, of course, income, just trying to get, we got cars, we got to try to get out and got cars coming in.
And at the one restaurant in town, the Twins Cafe,
I definitely wanted to get back open.
Leanne Barker just worried about her employees, now without work.
Seeing this down just breaks my heart.
As the businesses pick up the pieces, Sylvia says when you've got nothing left in this town, you've always got a friend.
Kindness, that's all I can say about Haleyville.
And another business here. These are the front steps. That's the front door. It was knocked off the foundation. Fortunately, most of the businesses here tell me they do plan to rebuild. Now, we know that nearly 24 homes were destroyed by that tornado. We've been here all day talking with people who have nowhere to go. Their stories at 6. Live in Haleyville, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News. In just about every yard, there are these massive down trees. Take a look at this one. The base alone here, taller than I am. This tree's got to be at least 100 years old. Many of the homes here also covered in tarps, but those people consider themselves the lucky ones because others lost everything.
Try not to cry. It's bad.
Hiding with her family.
There was about 9 of us in the cellar. We had 3 small babies and then 1 teen.
Samantha Harden, like many others, was in a shelter when the storm hit Haleyville.
I just closed the door, got 2 more people in, and then it...
Hours later, when she returned home,
we lost our roof, we've lost windows, we've got all kinds of stuff ripped out.
She found her house in disrepair, and her carport had gone from the front yard to the backyard.
Our house is gone.
A similar story for Sandy Gregg, who took cover in the school shelter with dozens of others.
I heard siren on my phone, and we just got in the truck and went across town.
Now she's staying in a motel after a massive tree destroyed her living room.
It's terrible. I've never seen it so bad here.
Emergency management says 22 homes are a total loss. Dozens more have damage. The upgraded ball fields left in shambles, roads and bridges flooded, and we showed you several businesses were demolished.
It was scary. It's scary, and we feel for the people who own the businesses.
With only 1 reported injury, people here say they're glad they decided to take shelter.
I'm really glad that we wasn't here. I wouldn't want to go through it. I wouldn't want to put my grandkids through it.
And there are still some power outages here tonight. Emergency management says that the sirens here in Haleyville haven't worked for years. In nearby Hartshorn, they didn't go off last night either. That's something they're now looking into. Live in Haleyville, covering news that matters. I'm Preston Jones, Fox 23 News.
All right, Preston.